let's start. So, welcome, Luc. I'm Matthieu Chanville, one of the 4 co-founders and managing partners of Shift for Good, a 220 million euro venture capital fund focused on decarbonization of transportation. And I met Luc 5 years ago when he had just joined the Renault group, and he became immediately the sponsor of the investment of the group into Shift for Good. Very thankful for that. But before that, let me introduce very briefly Luc. Luc has made groundbreaking contributions to AI. Long time ago already, you probably know in the room that he is a co-founder of Siri, the voice assistant. He has led startup labs, innovation labs in the Silicon Valley, held executive positions in innovation at Hewlett-Packard, Apple, Samsung. Spent, I think, more than 30 years in the Silicon Valley, and 5 years ago, you decided to give back a bit of what France had given you, and took the responsibility as Chief Scientific Officer of Renault Group, the car maker. And you share your time between the Silicon Valley and France, Paris, namely. Could you maybe to start tell us a few words about how you see software and AI play a role in the transformation of an incumbent car maker such as Renault?
I mean, for the car makers, obviously they need to adopt AI a little bit more. I mean, because the other guys they do, right? So there is the old guys. So I mean, the Ford, the Renault, the Fiat. I mean, all the century-old guys, and there are the new guys, the Chinese builders, and the Tesla, Lucid, Rivian of the world. Those guys, they adopted AI since day one, right? In the case of the century guys, they are a little bit slower to adopt it. But I mean, it's coming. Obviously, I'm trying to push that. The reality is that AI itself, I mean, the old AI, not Gen AI, but the old AI, everything that was the logical AI back in the 50s, 70s, it's already in the factories. So in factories, AI is already adopted with all the robots and stuff. So that part is fine. What is not fine is inside the car. We can do much better. So we did with the latest car that we released in December in the Renault 5. We did put a little bit of AI inside, but we can do much more than that. So this is what we are trying to push. But the reality is that software, we talk a lot about agile, right? I mean, agile. The reality is that we are not agile. And the other guys, the young guys, they are agile. And so it means that they can build vehicles in, the Chinese 17 months to build a vehicle. The West Coast guys, 2 years, 2.5 years. Us, still 5 years. So when you want to run software on hardware that is going to be 5, 10-year-old, it's going to be much more complicated than running on hardware that is going to be 2-year-old. So this is one of the issues that we have. So we need to fix the way we build cars in order to have the software running on something that is, that has enough muscles to accept the software that we want to run.
And don't you think that the software architecture that now is adapted by even legacy car makers, for the so-called software-defined vehicles, with higher compute and data that are cleaner and better to be leveraged in connected vehicles, is now the right foundation for AI use cases to be developed within the car?
Yeah, obviously, I mean, having 1 or 2 big computers in the car, like we will have with SDV, is much better than having 80 small computers, right? Because you are going to be able to use the compute that is going to be on those big guys, correctly. I mean, the adoption of SDV, I mean, it's something that we want to do, but it's still, something that we wish to do, right? So it's going to take a little bit of time before we have real SDV in the cars. So the real hardware to allow us to do those software that will run smoothly, in the cars. So, but the reality is that yes, it will be much better. To be great.
Change gears, and I want to talk about a more maybe controversial topic for you, autonomous driving. We've seen billions invested in the past decade in autonomous driving projects, with a peak in 21 with more than $20 billion invested in autonomous driving projects around the world. Then we saw the truth of the disillusionment with a lot of failures and bankruptcies and big players, big tech players having abandoned their projects. Apple, Uber, Ford, Volkswagen, GM with Cruise. And I would say that what we have seen for the past year is less players, survivors, but seem to become more concrete around players like Waymo, but also the Chinese ones like Pony AI or WeRide, Chinese startup listed on the Nasdaq, one in which I invested back in 2018, by the way. Happy about that. What do you think about it? Do you think that we are on the verge of seeing a real level 5 autonomous driving on the streets?
So, I think that level 5 was something that was promised by Elon Musk back in 2014, right? So more than 10 years ago, Musk said, level 5 is for tomorrow. We all know now that he's a liar, so that's done. And it's not going to happen. So the reality is that if they had asked me back in 2014, we would have saved a lot of money, okay? Because, it's just impossible. Level 5 is impossible. I can prove it, but I'm not going to do it here unless you give me the time to. But anyway, the reality is that now we realize that we can go to level 4. When we are talking about the robotaxi, that are all over the place, Waymo in San Francisco, Phoenix, and others, this is level 4. And level 4 is possible. This is something that is not that difficult. Actually, WeRide and all those guys, they are all level 4. It's kind of working on specific geographies, on specific, ways to do it. But it's good. The reality, that we don't see that. People, when they are in San Francisco, they just take the Waymo and they are excited about seeing the cars without any drivers. The reality is that there is no driver in the car, but there is a driver,
remote
somewhere.
Operations, yeah.
And so if the car has an issue, which happens sometimes, it doesn't happen a lot, but it happens sometimes. There is somebody somewhere that is taking control and that is, putting the car back on the road. So this is level 4, and level 4 is great. It's going to help a lot of people to basically travel. The population is getting older and older, so we are going to need more of those level 4 cars. So it's happening now. As you said, there are less players. Cruise disappeared. They are reappearing right now, but not to do any kind of robotaxi. But anyway, so the technology is kind of here now. We can, have some very safe rides on those cars. And we see more and more bigger vehicles coming along as well, the shuttles and stuff like that. And I think that it's great. It's going to happen. But level 5 will never happen.
By the way, autonomous driving is great if it's shared electric vehicles. Then it can have a positive impact on the environment. But if it's for every individual to own its self-driving car, it's just stupid.
Yeah, no, it has to be shared. That, huh? Yeah, it has to be shared. The idea is really to share the thing. The issue with the shared car, is what we saw back here in France, a few years ago. There was, at the beginning, it was great. They were clean, they were okay. And, it became very dirty, very bad, and you didn't want to take those cars anymore. So there is an issue of the way you are going to manage and to maintain those cars. So this is the sharing part is more, about the cleanliness of the car than the car themselves. The car themselves are going to run, that's fine. But how are you going to be sure that you are going to provide an environment that is going to be clean and safe? This is the part that is a little bit more complicated.
What is interesting also with all these investments in auto-dooring technology is that with investment in hardware also, so LiDARs, camera, radars, new computing infrastructure, and also cameras in the cities infrastructure, so to do V2X and vehicle-to-vehicle connectivity, etc. There are a lot of development that can have use cases beyond the car, and we see even in the manufacturing area, some of these technologies that have been developed by companies working on ADAS or AD projects are now entering the factory floor. And maybe you want to comment on the potential of AI and say physical AI, so AI applied to machines.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that we talk a lot about robotics right now, right? So there are a lot of robotics companies that are inheriting from the idea of the agentic AI. You know, so I mean, we had generative AI. So generative AI becomes now more and more agentic AI, and the agents can be virtual or can be, you know, real stuff like robots. And we are going to see more and more of those robots, you know, being autonomous for tasks that are going to be defined in the floor factory. And those agents, they are going to be you know, doing whatever they are supposed to do with very specific tasks themselves. But it's going to be another layer that is going to be on top, that is the orchestration layer, that is going to orchestrate the different ways those agents can do stuff, you know, in the factory. So it can be very complex tasks, very complex, you know, scenario that we can have now, you know, with those agentic and robotic AIs. So yes, it's coming. I mean, we see right now all the investment. You know, people are pouring hundreds of millions of dollars in the robotics right now because this is the way to do it. I don't think this is the way to do it with the humanoid robots. And you saw the news maybe last night about. Again, my good friend, you know, Elon Musk, that is losing his guys, you know, and Optimus is dead, but we knew that, and so we are going to forget the humanoid robots. That, I mean, for what? I don't need humanoid robots. I need robots that are going to do stuff, you know, and they are going to be specifically doing stuff in the factories or wherever they are going to be deployed. And they are going to be very specialized and very good at whatever they are supposed to do. Humans, they are not meant to do everything, right? I mean, we cannot wear or have a lot of weight or something like that. Those robots, they can, if they have no specific shape and thing. They don't have to be like us. We are not optimum.
And by the way, talking about that, you talk about augmented intelligence, where AI can enhance humans and not replace humans. And you are not a big fan of AGI, a topic some people in this summit can talk about. You just wrote a second book on artificial intelligence, which still does not exist. I will let you comment on that, and the fact that AI is... even Gen AI is not creative as humans are. So it would be interesting to hear you about it.
I mean, you know, at the very beginning of AI, I mean, when the officially AI started in 1956, and we called that, you know, artificial intelligence, but intelligence really meant at the time not smartness, but information, like CIA, right? Yeah. And so it was statistics to create models with data that was available. This is what it is, right? So those models, they are doing whatever they are supposed to do in the very specific area where the data is going to be. We are trying to put a lot of data on those things, and so to create some generic stuff, like, you know, OpenAI, they are creating ChatGPT. ChatGPT is supposed to be able to talk about everything, right? Because it basically ate the internet, you know, so it knows everything about the internet. Unfortunately, on the internet, there is stuff that is not true. Right? And so sometimes ChatGPT is going to tell you stuff that is not true. So I don't think it's a good idea to try to reach something that is universal and that is going to be, you know, right all the time and better than us everywhere. I don't know what it means, by the way, better than us everywhere. I think that what we are reaching now, what we are doing now, are AIs, with the plural, that are going to be very specific. And by the way, those AIs, they are better than us for a long time, because they are tools that are going to be better than us in the specific area. This is the definition of a tool. If a tool is not better than me, it's not a tool.
And they will be much more energy efficient because they are specialized.
Because they are smaller, because they are going to use less data and data only in their domain, they are going to be smaller, more efficient, and more pertinent. I mean, it's going to be actually better in terms of accuracy. Because today, the accuracy of those big AIs, we are in the 64%, which is ridiculous, right? It's pretty bad. So we need to reach the 95, 99%. And to do that, we need to be narrow in terms of domain. And this is what we are doing more and more now. And when I'm talking about agentic AI, this is exactly what it is. Those small agents that are very specialized in very specific things, that are very good at that, and much more efficient. This is why we are talking more and more about SLM instead of LLM, small language models that are going to be, smaller, more efficient, blah, blah, blah.
Thank you. Super interesting. And maybe going back to cars, an example maybe of specialized algorithm and AI applied here to vehicles. Within Renault, you are also president of the so-called Software Republic, gathering 7 different large corporates, including Renault Group, with the aim of developing new businesses based on software. One example I like is virtual sensors. So how you virtual sensors, meaning algorithm instead of hardware sensors, Androids put on cars that allow you to do monitoring real time of different organs of the vehicle, your tires, your brakes, your gearbox, your battery, etc., to do predictive maintenance. Could you maybe explain how you work with this little company from Darmstadt, Compredict?
Yeah, so I mean, the Software Republic is a group of 7 big companies, but we are working with small companies as well. When we do a project, we try to do a project where people, I mean, for instance, where Renault doesn't know how to do something, they are trying to get the something from, a Thales or Orange or whatever. So we are trying to share the thing that we can, share and we can be better at. But in addition to that, we know that we have, holes in the racket, right? So it means that we are going to try also to get the startups to help us on very specific areas. And the reality is that for all the sensors that you're talking about, I mean, the sensors are expensive, and they can be obsolete. I mean, it can be, very bad also for the environment potentially. So that's why, Compredict, for instance, this German company, is very interesting to us because it allows us with AI to just replace real sensors with virtual sensors. And you were talking about tires because of the sensors that we already have in the cars, like or in the phones or whatever we have, like the accelerometer and stuff like that. We can actually, with a model of the car, we can decide and they can see with their technology that the tire is going to be inflated or not, according to the position and to the reaction when the car is driving. And so this is very fine, very interesting. The models are very, specific to cars, to the model of the car, but it's actually working. And this is very interesting because it means that every sensor that would be, I don't know, $4, for each tire, now you can replace it with no sensor, basically with just something that you already have in the car. And so Compredict is helping for that, for instance, and it's very, very useful to understand that software, AI, is going to help us to also replace sometimes, some hardware.
Thank you, Luc. I think it comes to an end. Thank you very much. Luc and the Shift4Good team, we are here for the ones that are founders looking for investors at the intersection of AI and transportation with environmental impact. Thank you, Luc.
Thank you very much.
Everyone.